and everyone is very welcome. I think this is our 49th budget meeting, moving into our 50th year, and we've spent millions of pounds of the taxpayers' money very prudently on saving thousands and thousands of lives and billions of pounds of property over those 15 years. And we are, of course, always going to be grateful to our staff, our past staff, our current staff, our past members, our current members, for all that's been done on behalf of keeping this community as safe as it is. So if we move on to the agenda, everybody has their papers with them. We start with apologies. Apologies from our independent member, that's Anthony Toyle. Is there any other apology that a member would like to register?
I've received it, Chair.
Thank you. Declarations of interest.
We haven't received it.
Other than to ask if any member still needs to fill in the declaration form with regard to council. 3 is minutes of the previous meeting. They've been circulated, and if there are any amendments of a factual nature, we can incorporate those. Otherwise, is it agreed that I would sign off those minutes as a correct record? So move on to 4, which is the meat of the agenda, and that is the Fire Authority budget and financial plan 24-25 through 28-29. These are on pages 9 to 92. When we come to it, the resolution is on page 9 and 10, and that's the meat of what we'll be moving and proposing. I'll turn to the Chief first to introduce it, and then Mr. Ray to talk through the budget.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll just introduce the report itself, and then Mike will say that on behalf of the staff will talk through the report in detail. So the purpose of the report is to present information to allow members to set a medium-term capital and revenue financial plan that allocates resources in line with Merseyside Fire and Rescue Authority's strategic aims and ensures the authority delivers efficient and effective value for money service aligned with the budget principles. And this will enable the authority to set the budget for 2024-2025 while determining a preset level in line with statutory requirements. And the recommendations, as Michael talked through, are captured on page 9 through to page 10. But as I say, Michael described the medium-term financial plan and how this year's budget sits within it. So I'll hand across to Michael.
Chief. Budget and financial plan provides all the necessary financial information for members to approve a financial strategy to set a balanced 24-25 revenue budget based on 2.9%, 2.98% increase in precept. Section A and B of the report provide members with an executive summary on the background to the proposed 2024-25 to 2028-29 medium-term financial plan. Section C on pages 28 to 34 of the report considers the proposed 5-year capital programme and the associated potential borrowing requirements. The table on page 30 summarises the proposed 35.871 million capital programme, of which 29.631 million is being funded through potential borrowing. The programme has increased by 9.3 million, including 4 million for the additional year of the programme. The additional 9.3 million will be funded by borrowing. Inflation and supply shortages have increased the current scheme cost by 1.4 million. Paragraph 80 on pages 31 to 33 detail the areas planned capital spend, and the proposals include provision of the asset management plans, which are also on today's agenda. Section D on pages 35 to 36 considers how the minimum revenue provision, which is the sum that will be set aside each year to repay the debt associated with capital borrowing, will be calculated. The recommendation is to adopt a similar strategy to the current minimum revenue provision determination and use the asset life method for all unsupported borrowing. Provision for the minimum revenue provision and the interest payments has been included in the updated medium-term financial plan. The authority is required to consider the impact of proposed capital borrowing over a number of potential indicators. Section A of the report on pages 38 to 41 provides the information and explains the movement in the indicators over the medium-term financial plan period. In addition, the key indicator is that debt is only incurred to meet capital expenditure, and therefore net borrowing does not, except in short term, exceed the total capital financing requirement. The level of borrowing to the proposed capital programme meets this requirement. The authority is required to prepare a treasury management strategy that sets a framework within which the authority will manage capital borrowing and manage investments. Section F of the report, pages 42 to 53, sets out the proposed strategy. The proposed authorised limit for gross borrowing of 55 million will ensure that the total gross debt does not exceed the capital financing requirements, and that borrowing is only incurred to cover capital investment. The proposed investment strategy is consistent with the current strategy and recommends continuing with the institutional limits and minimum credit ratings outlined on page 46 of the report. The revenue costs associated with the level of potential borrowing in the proposed medium-term financial plan have been built into the plan and are deemed prudent, sustainable and affordable. Section G of the report on pages 54 to 64 identifies the revenue medium-term financial plan assumptions supporting the plan. Paragraphs 119 to 132 and pages 52 to 62 outline the revised assumptions, costs and available funding and the impact these changes have on the proposed 24-25 budget and updated medium-term financial plan. Some of the key changes are an increase in the 24-25 annual pay for board assumption from 2.5% to 3%, followed by 2.5% per annum thereafter. Consolidation of the 3 million firefighter pension grant into the revenue support grant is paid to the authority following the 2016 pension scheme actuarial review, and an increase in the firefighters pension scheme employers' contribution rate from 28.8% to 37.6% from 2024-25 onwards. This is following the 2020 actuarial review, for which the authority will receive a grant in 2024-25. There's also an increase in the 24-25 government funding, including the business rates compensation grant and the firefighters pension grant previously explained, of 4.5 million above the current plan's assumption, and an increase in the 25-26 funding assumption of 1% to 2%. The table on page 63 summarises the impact of the changes of the medium-term financial plan and the net forecast position in each year. The medium-term financial plan presents a balanced position for 24-25, subject to the key assumptions remaining consistent throughout the year. Due to the level of uncertainty over future years' forecasts, particularly around pay and government funding, members are asked to simply note any financial challenge in these years at this point in time. Section 8 on pages 65 to 69 reviews the current general revenue and committed reserves position and the proposed use of them reserves. The table on page 69 outlines the anticipated reserve drawdown over the medium-term financial plan period. The authority is recommended to maintain a general fund reserve at the current level of 3 million, which equates to approximately 4% of the net operating expenditure, and approve the committed reserves. Finally, section 9, pages 70 to 71 identifies that 35.571 million needs to be raised from council tax precept in 2024-25 to balance the revenue budget. That would require an increase in the council tax band D precept of 2.98%, increasing the band D charge from £88.61 to £91.25. Although most people in Merseyside will pay the band A council tax of £60.83, which equates to an increase of just over 3 pence per week. Members are asked to approve the report recommendations on page 9 to 10.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, colleagues. So the document and the budget is there. On the desk, I think you have the Labour Party, the leaders in all our councils. The legal requirement is the leader to put forward the budget. It's the Labour Party budget in this case, the budget document, which follows what's in the papers before you. So first, I'd like to thank the Director of Finance and his team for efficiently producing our budget this year, as again, That team is well recognised as one of the best, if not the best, financial team in the entire fire sector. I also thank our fantastic staff throughout the whole organisation for all they have done to keep Merseyside safe, following our tradition of great administration and demonstrating community leadership. The detailed budget proposals have been circulated to members for information within the protocol of our constitution, and I've not been made aware of any amendments proposed to the printed documents. Now, in previous years, colleagues, I've complained about the deliberate and conscious government underfunding of the service, several governments, resulting in unacceptable cutbacks in provision, staffing, and the level of safety and innovation that we can and should provide. This year, it seems that the wheels of the current government are coming slowly to a clanking halt, and there is little point in covering again or reversing these sentiments. They're well known, it's the same in every one of our authorities, but hopefully soon to be consigned to the past. We must now look at what comes after the inevitable general election. I have my own hopes and aspirations, as we all do, from various perspectives. None of us expects it to be easy or straightforward, nor that with one great leap our hero fire service will be free. The world has changed, and the finances of the public sector have changed. I've already started to lobby the Shadow Fire Minister on a range of issues that we'd like to see implemented by a new and incoming government. Over the past 20 years, since the last Fire Services Act, there's been a change in society, a modernisation of technology, a pressing need for a new Fire Safety Act that will incorporate many of the new forms of safety: electric vehicles, recharging of batteries, cycles, thermal insulation, building cladding, escape from high-rise buildings, sprinklers and suppression systems. We've also identified a need for an independent fire service college, a fire service research body, common practices across all blue light services, especially in large-scale emergencies. And there is such a large range of issues that a new public safety bill act is fundamental, and we will be lobbying for something that will modernise and update on the existing legislation. We will lobby all parties on the need for this legislative support for the fantastic work our firefighters and our fire stoppers do. We look forward to a new government, a new settlement, a new opportunity for our fire service. Before I commend the budget to you, I would specifically like again to thank our fantastic firefighters for all they do domestically here in Merseyside and internationally in the work that we do to save and rescue people in the time of their greatest need. Once again, I'm thanking the colleagues of the Fire Authority, present and past, those that have served here over many years, indeed 50 years. 50 years. The Inspector has time after time recognised us as the best performing fire authority in the country, and this is a badge of honour that we all wear with pride. The new Long Lane Fire Station and the TDA in that location, the National Centre of Excellence, is almost built, and is a testimony to this legacy of community action and continued forward thinking. Members, the budget document is before you. It's hypothecated on the maximum legal increase in our precept, good and prudent maintenance of our reserves, good and prudent provision for capital, for which we receive no specific grant, and our best anticipation of inflation over the next year. We will join with other authorities to lobby for proper pay rises for our staff and a proper settlement for our budget and our grant and our ability to raise funds from the community. So before I move to the vote, could I take, I will propose this budget, which is in the documents, and I'll ask for someone to second that. Seconded. Thank you. Now, if there's anyone who might like to make a contribution or ask questions, Happy to take. Councillor Ken.
Yeah, thank you. I support the budget, which I think overall is very positive in a very difficult situation. I think I'd like to make a couple of points. I think first of all, it's true to say that for the 10-year period from 2010 to 2020, the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service suffered the most drastic cuts of any fire and rescue service anywhere in the country. But I think we need to recognise that over the last 4 years, there has been some positives and we have made some progress. In fact, we've increased the number of firefighters on Merseyside. We've increased fire control operators. We've increased the number of fire appliances. So I think there's lots of positives in a situation where we could have had some really negative decisions to take as a result of what's happened over the last 14 years. So I won't go into any more detail now, but a lot of those issues have already been mentioned. But I think it is important that as a fire authority, we do place on record our thanks and appreciation to the Chief Fire Officer, the Director of Finance, and in fact all staff who've been involved in drawing up this budget that's been presented to us today. And at the same time, I think we also need to take the opportunity, which perhaps we don't do often enough, of thanking all staff employed by the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service for the fantastic work they do all year round on behalf of us, on behalf of the communities on Merseyside. So it's on that basis, Chair, I've got great pleasure in supporting the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for such a detailed budget. It contains a huge amount of information. Mike, I just wanted to ask if you could just tell us a bit more about the pensions issue, page 55.
If you speak up a little, there's no amplification.
Yes, the pensions, so for the last 4 years, the authority has been in receipt of a pensions grant following the 2016 actuarial in pension review. This is for the firefighter pensions. So we received that for the last 4 years. Following that review, that pension grant has now been brought into the revenue support grant this financial year. Then following the 2020 actuarial review, we're now going to be in receipt of another grant. Now that grant is to cover the employer's pension increase, which I explained before is increasing from 28.8% to 37.6%. Now, the government has said that grant at the moment is just going to be one-off. So we've included it into this financial year, and we've assumed that we're going to get a proportion of it for next financial year until we get the settlement we will have on future results.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair. Again, I'd like to echo the comments of our thanks and appreciation to the Chief, to my Director of Finance, and all the team there, because there's been a long way that's got to be put into making sure that our budget is balanced and achieved. And we've certainly had a number of challenges over the last 14 years. We started off with the austerity measures from 2010 to 2000. Still seems to be studying measures. It's supposed to be within 8 years where the end of austerity should have ceased, but it didn't. And we continue to be under financial pressure. But I think that the way the policy has dealt with that in a sort of meaningful way and an open way and a transparent way bodes well for not only all our staff and all our officers, but also the trade unions. That consultation, that negotiation, that sort of mature discussion has had to take place. And there's some hard decisions that will have to be taken, and some still challenging decisions that need to take going forward. But I think that spirit and which that has been presented has been one that the service and the people of Merseyside have benefited from, because it's signals, because of what's happened over the last 14 years. I think we're all drained. It's signals us, because we never know what's around the corner. We're back to the field with the year-on-year budget settings, so we can't plan for the future. So I think we said this at the strategy day. How can any organisation able to build in anything, the plans, the aspirations that we want, for a service, and especially when there is a service going forward. And I think, you know, for a government, I'm very persuasive, so they're thinking about, thinking that it's okay just to allow this to go on. It's short-sighted, to say the least. But also, it's just, it's a different thing for anybody who's going to deal with finance, with a medical organisation, or local authority, like the city council, and all the good cultural information. But I think going forward, I think we are in a place. And, you know, we've adapted because of that. I think one thing is sort of hybrid flexibility in that institution. Hopefully that's benefiting the service, and also individuals will be taking up on that. Because again, we'll have to adapt with the times. But this is all pressure that we shouldn't have really actually doing. And we only hope that we will have a general election, and we will have a new government, and hopefully that new government will listen to the fire rescue service across the whole of the country to say, well, okay, it was some years ago where we used the Fire Services Act, and things have moved on, things have changed, you know, technology's changed, demand's changed, and I think that is going to be fundamental on how we look at the fire and rescue service going forward in the next 5 or 10 years. And I hope that spirit of consensus and that spirit of communication and that spirit of engagement will continue going forward in the next 4 years. So again, it's just our thanks to everybody for all their hard work, their dedication, for everything that they've done over the last, not just the last year, but the last 49 years.
Yeah, just to say, I agree with everything that Councillor Tamaraty, Eddie, and other colleagues have said. They're absolutely right to talk about the devastating impact of austerity during those 10 years and beyond. But in addition to that, we've had quite a few other challenges even more recently, haven't we, with the pandemic, which has thrown the operations into a state of emergency over the course of about 18 months. In more recent times, we've had the devastating impact of soaring inflation, which has ripped through budgets across local government and devalued the value of our financial campaign. And despite all that, I'm proud that we're putting forward such an ambitious and progressive budget. It is something that we can be proud of. I'm particularly pleased by some of the things that we see here, such as the enhanced mobilisation. Anything which has the potential to produce response times by what's within it, it's something that we all know can make all the difference when it comes to saving someone's life. It's a fantastic thing that we're doing, so I'm very pleased with that. I'm aware that there's still challenges facing the authority and facing the service, but I'm very optimistic that we're in a good place to go forward. And I'm very pleased with the budget that we've put forward, and I also urge colleagues around the room to support it.
Any other questions, points? Okay, well, I propose, it's been seconded. Specifically, we need to look at pages 9 and 10 and the list of recommendations that are set out. There's quite a lot of them, I'm not going to run through them, but that's what we're voting on now. The budget, but specifically those items listed on 9 and 10. I'd like to have a show of hands, please. Those that will be in favour of those, please show. Thank you, it's unanimous, but just in case, is there anyone against or abstaining? No. Thank you colleagues, thank you very much. It's a testimony to what our officers and the staff of the authority have done. And I know that the auditors and the inspectors regard what we do very highly, never mind the sort of operational side. The administrative side is an exemplar of best practice. So thank you for that. So we'll move on then to the next item on the agenda, same sort of vein, the asset management plans, item 5, pages 93 to 178. Chief.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I think it is a direct reflection of the medium-term financial plan and the budget that's set. This is obviously the asset management plans, which I will go into in a little bit more detail, underpin the aspirations of the service moving forward. And that kind of progressively, if you want to introduce increasing number of fire engines, then we need to make sure that we've got that capability to be able to do that within the budget setting process. And certainly that the asset management plans are able to facilitate that. So, bringing you back to the report itself, the purpose of the report, this report is to set out how Merseyside Fire and Rescue Authority plans to align its physical assets and its systems with its corporate aims and objectives over the next 5 years from 2024 through to 2028-29. The asset management plans take account of the financial and environmental challenges faced by the authority while delivering its aspirations to the future. The plans underpin the changes that are detailed within the authority's current integrated risk management plan and future draft community risk management plan, which is on the agenda elsewhere today, and the service delivery and people plan, thereby meeting the expectations of both internal and external service users. And the recommendations are that members approve the asset management plan provided in the appendices of these reports. What I would go on to detail, and there's 3 particular asset management plans which are in scope and focus today. One related to our infrastructure, so our estate and our property, our buildings. The other talks into our data, technology and ICT provision. And finally, it's related to transport and fleet. And they are broadly the 3 tenets of the work that would be captured with the asset management plan to support the delivery of that ambition. And as I say, they are broken down into specific asset management plans, and the first one around property and estate, being from page 97 onwards. And that goes into talk about the aspirations for the service in regards to the physical estate that the operational firefighters will work from, the building itself, our new training development academy and everything that comes with that. And from an authority perspective, we set out our ambition to be the best fire and rescue service in the country and in the nicest possible way to be able to deliver that for our community, to be able to deliver that for our staff as well. And what you'll see over the course of the last number of years is real investments in the infrastructure of the service. So commenced probably with PFI, but equally the refreshing of the building stock more broadly, and actually probably culminating in the combination of Croxford and Aintree Fire Station into the new facility, which we've got Long Way, which will be called Aintree Fire Station, alongside the new Training Development Academy and the National Resilience Centre of Excellence as described. But it doesn't stop there, because there's our ambition to replace and upgrade some of the other stations that are currently a little older than we would want them to be. Very much focused in on great facilities for our firefighters, but also the communities that access those particular locations too. But we think that's right and fitting for us to do that. What I would draw members' attention to is not just the reference I've made on around the Training Development Academy, also the aspirations which captured on page 109, which fit neatly into the previous report around the medium-term financial plan. So not only are we building the Training Development Academy, which will be completed on the 29th of April, and across to go live operation on the 1st of May, with the training development following shortly after. We've also got a number of other major refurbishments, so Cromwell Community Fire Station in 2024-25, Kirby Community Fire Station 25-26, and Walshy Community Fire Station 26-27, at which point we will, and again, I stand to be corrected on this, we will probably have the best operational and support infrastructure of any fire rescue services in the UK. We move on from obviously the estate into the ICT provision. So, and again, members will be aware, not only we've got our own team working with regards to information and technology, we've also got that relationship stuff with Telent, for a third party provider of the infrastructure that supports our ambition. But very much, the ambitions of the ICT programme is very specifically focused in on a number of areas which I will describe. So ICT infrastructure and commodity applications. So it's not everything as technology moves on, certainly applications become more prevalent in any organisation, particularly the fire and rescue service. A real focus around technological advancements, which is captured not only in the asset management plan, but also within the community risk management plan, which we will come to around fire control and its applications. And Councillor Roberts has referenced enhanced mobilisation to put the infrastructure in and support our ambition. That means that we get fire engines out the door quicker, to respond quicker to emergencies, and to corporate applications which underpin our current day-to-day business, how do we manage performance and so on. Financial and HR applications, again, a kind of staple for any organisation. And then we have the ICT relationship with talent to provide support and technical advice, ensuring that we are able to continue to operate effectively, and we've got all the safeguards in place to be able to do that. So I'll move off the ICT asset management plan and move on to pick up the vehicle, the fleet, the transport asset management plan. Again, we draw members' attention to page 163. The transport functions objectives are described around the supporting of the aims and objectives of the service. So we'll go into them in specific detail, other than to say, not only is the ambition to have the right capabilities to meet the foreseeable risk, it also recognises our green credentials in regards to ensuring that we are environmentally friendly in the approach that we adopt to managing our fleet in our estate. The report on the asset management plan then goes into detail how we purchase, procure, and then dispose of vehicles. It gives you an overview of the type of vehicles that we've got in use across the service, which is extensive, and includes the refresh of a number of vehicles moving forward, particularly the introduction of what is described in the report on page 171 as a high-reach extendable turret vehicle, and probably colloquially known as the Scorpion, which will be introduced as part of our INMP 2024-27 in November this year. So that will go live on the basis of the previous integrated risk management plan, and it goes on to focusing on some of those environmental credentials that I've described previously, and then be a fundamental factor in our asset management plans across the broad area, but particularly around fleet management. And Chair, I'll wait pause at that point just to suggest to say that the purpose of this is to bring the asset management back to members, to scrutinise and to understand how they complement the delivery of our ambition, not only within the community risk management plan, but moving forward more broadly than the financial plan. Take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. Over the 50 years that we've delivered services, my goodness, it's been a change. There was that period of the PFI we went through, we managed 9 PFI stations in the Northwest, with 5 of them were ours, 6. And then you see all the other changes that we've made, the investments, the new fire stations. We've made a lot of change, and there's a lot more change with this massive. I think we shouldn't underestimate what a difference the TVA will make to what we do and how we operate and how we train and how we keep our staff safe, both in this authority and others. Commissioner Squirrel will have her own bundle of joy shortly, and we congratulate you before our next meeting, I'm sure. But I was taking my grandson to his primary school, and we got one of these, got one of those. That's fantastic. I was a governor of that school. Everything there that you see is over 15 years old. Building schools for the future was a great investment in those schools, but nothing's happened in 15 years. But it has here. We've invested heavily over the past 5, 10, 15 years in our assets, in our people, our working environment, and our safety environment. And again, that is a legacy for the authority of the future. They will be given far, far better buildings and equipment, the most modern fleet of vehicles in the country, the best protective equipment that we can muster, and that will be much better than what we inherited 50 years ago, but even 10 years ago. What we've got now is much better than what we had then. Are there any detailed questions?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. It's about the refurbishment of the fire stations. We've been on quite a few visits recently. Just how much they promote equality, diversity and inclusion, which I think Merseyside should be proud of. And also when we visited, things like the Beacon, Prince's Trust, the fact that they're community assets, is a big thing that I know not all fire stations have. You know, so it's something so positive.
Chair, I made comments. I can reflect on the changes that we're making across the ministry in regards to both dealing to some degree with buildings which are no longer fit for purpose. Certainly couldn't meet our kind of aspirations around the quality and access to fire stations, not only for the community but for our own staff. And certainly our aspirations around Merseyside fire and rescue service reflecting the communities that we serve. And you have to have facilities that support that ambition. And so there's an extensive amount of work being done around ensuring that the estate is fit for purpose and meets that quality duty that is placed on us, but actually creates an environment which allows our firefighters to thrive, and also training and facilities which are second to none, and that has been the aspiration and hugely supported by the authority over the last number of years, and recognises that ambition too. So I actually can't comment that.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on what the youth engagement was under the pumping appliances.
Yeah, so we have a youth engagement offer. So we referenced we deliver Prince's Trust, which doesn't have an operational aspect to it. However, if you look at some of the work we do around fire cadets, and we look at some of the work that we do around young people and at primary schools, so the Beacon courses described what they are in kind of become little mini firefighters for a period. Cadets obviously through the course of the time they spend with us, but actually the Beacon course will spend 1 day a week for 12 weeks with us on an intensive period over a kind of summer holiday period or a break. They become mini firefighters, so they use the equipment that is no longer in use operationally. We just move it across so they can train like firefighters for that period and understand the role, probably understand the leadership and be part of the team and so on and so forth, and take that back into their education in seconds.
Fantastic.
I think every fire station will have a linkage into the school as well. And my grandson held my hand, and I picked him up the other day and he said, "Grandad, the fire engine came today." Well, you know, the tears well up in your eyes and the heart beats stronger in your chest. And they had a great time, and that's it. Just sending a fire engine round to a primary school and letting them just casually proceed to react is a fantastic thing as well.
Yeah, Chair, can I just ask, I'm trying to get on the station visits, but I can't remember going to high school, but it's 1940. It says here in the report.
Yeah.
So it looks lovely from the outside, but I'm just.
It's not been done for a while, actually.
No, I don't think I've been.
In the last kind of 12, 18 months have been refurbished. So it might be 1940s, but it's in the second part of the in the nicest possible way. And it is as lovely inside as it is outside.
Sweet.
Maybe that'd be.
Modern inside.
But by all means, members can go and visit it for themselves, absolutely.
It's when you say next year's station, you mean the municipal year station.
Yeah.
Station visit. Yeah, we'll go there. I mean, we haven't been for a little while. Actually. I've not been on that visit for a little while, but it's one of those things that we'll go and look at. Many of these older stations were built with a planned for a mostly male workforce, but that's just not acceptable. And we have to change from that to a proper working function, and we know that that's required. Maybe it can't all be done day one, but we're just about there now. You know, there's still more to be done. Speak, various other stations, Crosby and places. They're older stations that need investment.
Just on that, speaking of those ones just being refurbished, the ones which we are focusing in on now, and as described. So, as I said, we've got policy in there. We've also got some cities before mentioned there, which we know we've got a bit of work to be done on, but actually it's not going to be exceptionally good. Just because that Tesla is 40 years old doesn't mean it doesn't function effectively, and it is an integral part of
Yes, thanks, Chair. We have had a lot of investments in St Helens in our station, but I can assure you it was very much needed at the time. Was that right, Phil? It was definitely was. But the other week I seen a fire engine outside the place, a way to work. It's where we put people through to try and get employment. And there was a fire engine there doing a demonstration to the people inside. And I thought, absolutely brilliant. We go into schools, we go in everywhere, but we don't actually do it in our town centres. And people could see it, and it was really much appreciated when they came from St Helens.
Right, colleagues, on this particular item, are there any more? If not, asset management plan. So the recommendation is shown on page 93. Recommended members approve the 24-25 to 28-29 asset management plan as provided in the appendices. Is that agreed, colleagues?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. Turn to page 6, draft community risk management plan 24-27. Used to be the IRMP, now it's CRMP. Chief.
Thanks, Chair. Before I go into the detail of the report, the community risk management plan, the medium-term financial plan, and the people plan are the three very kind of key documents for the authority, which drives not only our performance, our financial acumen, but also how we ensure that our people are effective in the roles as well. They will all come back to the authority in around July to sign off following extensive consultation, both internally and people plan for externally in regards to the community risk management plan, which I'll go on to detail some of the specifics that I would draw members' attention to. Compared to this report, this request that members approve the release of the draft community risk management plan 2024-27 for the period of 12 weeks consultation prior to the adoption and implementation, whilst noting that proposals outlined within the community risk management plan may change to reflect the views expressed during the consultation process. And the recommended that members approve the draft community risk management plan in the appendices, subject to that period of 12 weeks consultation prior to final approval and publication and information. The design version of the draft plan will be published for the consultation process. Members will be aware part of the requirement placed on the authority under the national framework is that we would publish a plan, previously as described as the management plan, now the community risk management plan. We look to assess all foreseeable risk and put in place arrangements to meet that risk on behalf of our communities to ensure that they are safe and protected. It extends beyond the operational response and includes the work that we do around prevention and protection, so it's all encompassing how we prepare, how we respond, how we prevent, how we protect. What I would also draw members' attention to before I move on to the CRMP itself and draw out specifics is that a comprehensive quality impact assessment being done as part and parcel of the community risk management plan in its totality, which we will draw on and add to as we go through that consultation process. And members will be aware that part of forming this particular draft in the first instance, we've already engaged the public and staff in regards to its co-creation. But self-evidently, we will go on for that 12 weeks. That may well result in some changes or some amendments to the proposal that are contained within, and that is absolutely appropriate under those circumstances. So this isn't the final version. The final version will come back to the authority at a future point in time following that consultative process. But the community risk management plan itself goes on to, and members will be broadly familiar, but it goes on to introduce the reader to Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, but equally introduce the reader to the risks that affect Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service on a day-to-day basis and part of our statutory duties, and how we produce and prepare for those things. So it kind of captures what we do from a response perspective, what we do from a prevention, protection, and so on, and how we prepare for it. It gives us the overview, and then it moves us into, reflecting on the risks that affect us, some known, some very relatively standard, and then some more emergence, and we've seen that more latterly around electric vehicles and so on and so forth, arguably terror attacks and the like in more recent years. But that's the purpose of the CRMP is to describe that. So I will go on to go into the details of what we're proposing for this particular CRMP. But before I do that, I wanted to pick up on comments made by Councillor Kenny previously, which is again reflecting back really on performance of the authority up until this point, particularly focusing on page 202 of the CRMP itself, which is captured within the forward. But I think it's important for them, public and the authority, to reflect back on the work which is done over the previous IRMP. Since we launched our last plan in 2021, we've increased the number of firefighters in Merseyside. We've increased the number of fire engines in Merseyside. We've improved our control room operations with more staff, new technology, and working in arrangements that enhance our response. We've introduced specialist capabilities that help us deal with wildfires, large buildings, water incidents, and waste fires. We've made over 119 visits to people's homes and businesses, which has reduced the number of emergencies we've been called out to. We've increased the number of protection officers in response to the Grenfell Tower inquiry recommendations. We've introduced computer systems that help provide better services. We've built, and we'll conclude very shortly, the new training and development academy and station to improve training facilities and the welfare of our staff, and train not only Merseyside staff against foreseeable risk, but also with that ambition which is contained within the CRMP to train nationally and internationally. And we'll introduce systems, duty systems and ways of working which reflect the demands placed on the service, making us understanding of how we utilise our resources from a financial and a human perspective. And what does that result in? It results in the fact that now the HMI, so the Majesty's Inspectorate of Fire and Rescue Services, has determined Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service and the authority to be outstanding at preventing fires and risks, outstanding at responding to major incidents, outstanding at making the best use of our resources. There isn't another fire and rescue service in the UK. They've got their setting three outstanding accolades. In this plan, what do we intend to do at the high level? Well, we intend to build on that really strong foundation, which actually goes back probably to 2018, really, where we started sort of address austerity maybe in a different way. And you've heard me describe changing a burning platform to a burning ambition, and then we've seen that reinvestments by great decisions by the authority manifest in more firefighters, more fire engines in Merseyside. So in this plan, we are looking to build on that kind of that progressive way of thinking, a positive way of thinking, to increase our resources and our capabilities even further. So in effect, we're looking to increase the number of fire engines who are able to serve and protect the public of Merseyside from 32 to 34. And we are considering, and there is a consideration of reintroducing small fires units, which can help detect life risk response. But again, it's subject to that public consultation. Protect frontline fire engine availability. That compliance is maybe slightly different to make sure that we are protecting life risk effectively. Enhance our water rescue capabilities. And again, I won't necessarily go into the specifics, but we have had a number of fatalities in water over the course of the last 12 months and before, and we are looking to do things maybe a little differently with providing a response and more effective response, which we know may well come at a cost, but we're going to build that into that community's management plan. Plan and respond to the challenges presented by alternative fuels. Enhance the way we mobilise our fire engines, because as we know, seconds save lives. So if we can, through enhanced mobilisation, take between 30 and 60 seconds off a response time, then we would look to do that. Improve the control room technology, which is linked into that ambition. We are considering the utilisation of our watch managers and whether we can mobilise them in different ways. Again, subject to ongoing consultation and feedback from our staff as much as the public, and recognising that our staff probably got better insights to how effective that would be, and sometimes members of the public would be under those circumstances. Educate communities around public risks, very good at educating around home safety and that preventative work, we're outstanding in fact, but we want to extend that to issues which are also affect them, so events such as wildfire, flood and so on. And continue to support and assist the ambulance service, and that ambition remains around emergency medical response and our ability to respond to calls. We are having that conversation nationally with the fire gauge union, particularly in that regard. And the conversations are very supportive of that ambition. Targeted prevention, we've reinforced this. We know, and this year the authority adopted the socio-economic duty, and this action is very much predicated on that to reinforce that really targeted intervention at those most vulnerable. That down to the inequalities that exist across Merseyside, as well as focusing in on some of the sheltered accommodation where we know people are more likely to have a fire, and then introduce a new framework around fire safety, around protection and enforcement, and then provide a national and international training offer from our £40 million training and development academy. And then we continue to work with the Home Office in regard to the work that we do around national resilience and UK international search and rescue with the CDO, and how we're going to refresh some of the assets that we will do on their behalf, whilst maintaining that ambition to achieve net zero. And we have described it by 2040, which aligns with the city meeting plan. But what I would say is the ambition, may well come before that. We are not waiting to 2040 to deliver against net zero. We will drive that changes as and when we can, when we look at some of the infrastructural changes that will be adopted as referenced within the asset management plan itself. So broadly, Chair, that is a very whistle-stop tour of what is contained within the plan. It describes the challenges we face, it describes the capabilities that we provide, it describes how we plan and deploy our resources, and then it moves on to build on the strong foundations that we've put in place over the course of the last number of years, and looks to get better and quicker and increase the number of staff within the service along the way. So Chair, probably pause at that point, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, thanks. Broadly looks very positive, and I think is a good reflection of everything that is needed on Merseyside. I think I just wanted to flag, and I know I mentioned at the strategy day, just the importance of the road safety issue. The numbers that we're seeing are just skyrocketing, and it's not something that one agency is going to be able to solve by itself. And actually, we've got some really good support in place from the fire service in terms of some of the operations that we've done, trying to demonstrate to the public around what could happen in a serious car collision. But it was one thing that you didn't mention in the introduction there, and it is in the plan. But I guess it's just from my point of view, we make sure that is not forgotten about, because it's such a key area of work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, we may well look to strengthen that within the plan even further. I was down in London yesterday talking about road and water safety coming up alongside home safety, part of the work we do nationally around prevention. And Merseyside gets a lot of stuff right. It might not necessarily capture it in the plan, but we'll come back to that. Because what we describe in our prevention work is home safety or community safety. Home safety being what everyone else would describe as prevention. We don't. We describe community safety as water safety, as road safety, as some of the work that we do around young people is wrapped up in that preventative work. It's about getting to the heart of communities and tackling the challenges that they face, some of them manifesting antisocial behaviour, and the real recognition of the contribution that we can make. That is an integral part of what we do, and maybe it's important to draw that out a bit more within the plan itself, because actually I think it's important that the communities of Merseyside know that too. And so yeah, you are absolutely our fundamental support around the road safety agenda, and we do know that road deaths and injuries are increasing, and we play a key role in addressing that alongside other parts.
Whilst this is going,
Oh, no, okay, no, it's just on the back of that. I just wondered whether or not, because obviously Wirral have been in quite an advanced stage of the rollout of 20 miles per hour, and I just didn't know whether or not you were getting feedback in terms of how that's playing out, what the incidences are, what in terms of injury or risk, whether or not you're getting that data through to you, and whether there's any finding to be added to that.
It may well be that we come back to you on that, Councillor, on the basis that it's still relatively early days around that kind of assessing the impact of the 29 hours speed introduction into the Wirral and other parts. Although we were asked to provide some supportive statements around the approach, we are very keen to support that because if we can drive down road traffic accidents and injuries, both in vehicles and pedestrians and cyclists, then absolutely fundamental part of what we are seeking to do. So I think it's probably valid that we would come back and revisit that to see whether the changes that have been introduced more recently are having the effect that we would want them to have, and then we'll be able to report that back to road safety partnership, but also back directly into the authority as well around our contribution, because police will do enforcement, you've got the local authority will do the environmental changes, and where we have placed ourselves very much from the centre is around education, and education of younger drivers, maybe less experienced, easily influenced, around the education platform that we would utilise to encourage them to drive safely. And so report back particularly around our ability to influence driving behaviours, but more broadly around the impact of the wider changes that we've made as a partnership to reduce road traffic accidents and injuries.
No, I appreciate that, and Wirral has sort of the messaging has been that it's not about the environmental aspects. This is about safety. This is about protecting lives. This is about being safe within your car, being safe as a pedestrian or cyclist as well. So no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, Sefton has had the 20s plenty scheme 10 years at least, and it is about safety, and it's everywhere in Sefton. The roads that are going to have it, call it all roads, not distributed roads. It's a side road. I mean, you're absolutely right. This is about the CRMP or the RMP which is about how we do it. But you've got to add on to that the lobbying that we do as well. Sprinklers, major work that we've done on sprinklers and suppression, retread tyres, safety methods in vehicles, vapes, electric batteries. I think that higher level lobbying work, that's the job of the authority. The job of the authority is not just to manage the authority at the political level, but to manage safety of our communities as well. And that's in partnership with police and the local authorities and the combined authority. And there's a big picture there of public safety. Lobbying for single-use barbecues, lobbying for these lanterns. And there's lots of work that we do as members and within our political groups as well. And that's all got to be added together to just trying to keep the public safe. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. This is like our whole plan, isn't it, for the next 3 years or so? And also the meeting but it is a national way at the same time. We have to obviously look at consultation and the feedback we get from all of our partners. And when we get the report back, it is a lot of documents to absorb and understand. Will it be beneficial to have a briefing or a presentation prior to the policy, just so members can have more in-depth discussion on prior to the policy, so that you more better understand and sort of digest the information that's going to be there and the feedback that's going to be there.
Yeah, Madam Chair, no problems with that at all. With the ability there at that particular point in time to provide feedback over that from public consultation as well, which is very quickly to inform of the authority's decisions and go into some of the specifics, because it may well be at that point in time we've decided that we want to implement some of the aspects of the no rules and will explain the logic of why we're taking some stuff out or why we're amending some stuff to reflect the views that have been expressed. So whichever way, shape or form, I'm more than happy as those colleagues around the room will be to come back and present that back to the authority, and then the authority to receive the CRMP as proposed in that July meeting. So I think we can probably accommodate that with the consultation process.
And does that come to the full authority? Yeah, because there's the community safety committee as well, isn't there? But there's a case of scrutiny. I mean, we've got to get this plan in place, and then we could scrutinise the outgoing plan. So, what messages, what lessons to be learned from the last one? There's a lot of work with this. This is our principal plan. This is the planning document that we use and we test against. and also that informal working, like sort of a morning lunchtime approach, so that members can to walk through the proposals before them. It's a good idea. Yes?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, amazing work here. Thanks for all the effort. It's fascinating to see it. A relatively new member of the authority really looking getting up to speed on all this stuff. There's a chart that appears twice in this report. Secondly, on page 256, which shows how Merseyside is the highest proportion of most deprived areas in England, not by a little, but by a long way. So the context of that compared to the outstanding service that's delivered is unbelievable, really. Now, I know councillors from various parts of the region will be desperate to get that figure down. That's something we're all working on and trying to reduce that deprivation. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight how I've already heard it actually, given that Emily at the back there said it, looking at the police and the city region on the net zero kind of target for 2040. There's been some big shifts in transport. I think we're going to get rid of all gas boilers by about 2040 in the region, which is a massive job. Now, gas boilers have an enormous risk of explosion. We've got very good at not letting it happen, so just making sure we're aware of what follows, which is likely to be big jumps at some time. Managing that further risk, obviously I've got a couple of e-bikes, so they bring a certain risk as well, and electric cars, I know, so it's just a change in risk really, so just if you have any thoughts on wiggle room within the plan for all these massive changes that society in the coming years ahead.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to reassure members of the authority, whilst it is our forward-looking plan, and if things emerge and risks emerge, then we will deal with them accordingly. So it's not just, this is it, and nothing else will be considered over that 3-year period. It just gives us that progressive direction and travel really, but if there are some things which emerge, which are presenting risks to our firefighters or the communities that they serve, then we will deal with them things accordingly. It's a draw back into, and there's a reason, because some of these things are dependencies within the document. They won't necessarily go out with the community risk management plan, while that particular graph is in twice, but it is very, very important for us to recognise, and certainly some of the stuff that we have done a lot from a lobbying perspective, that Merseyside has significantly more deprived communities than any other part of the UK. And when we start to lobby around funding, our position has always been around funding should follow effectively deprivation and where the inequalities are its highest, rather than sparsity, and that is a position we will continue to adopt and continue to lobby against, because we all share the same view that we should be moving Merseyside to the right rather than remaining on the left. But with that comes significant challenges. What I would say is, in some of the kind of proposals that were built into the CRMP around targeting those inequalities really overtly, and you members shouldn't be surprised given the outstanding status that we've received from a prevention point of view. But if you were to look at the last 10 years and compare directly Merseyside Fire and Rescue Services with preventative work in respect of accidental gun fires with others, the average is about 16% reduction. Merseyside is 32% reduction. That is evidence of the kind of impact that we are having, targeting the inequalities that exist across Merseyside. So it's integral around our plan, but it's certainly something that we continue to lobby in respect of with government. The other thing I would pick up on Councillor Hamati's kind of comments around the extent of the plan itself. It's built in over 3 years, and equally we know the medium-term financial plan plays a part in it. So the budget that we've just set, or the authority have just set, is a 1-year budget. The likelihood is, irrespective of whichever government is in place in forthcoming years, it will likely be a further 1-year budget, and then it may well be something more extensive than that. Getting a 3-year budget in place would be more preferable because it allows us to plan more effectively. But notwithstanding that, we're going to see CRMP to be able to flex and adapt with circumstances, but also the financial situation that is affecting the authority at this point in time. So it may well be that we do some things in year 1, which we were quite clear on what we were doing because it's actually built into this year's budget. And some of the other things which you can see within the CRMP are for year 2 and 3, when we know exactly where we are financially, because it's ambitious, and with that ambition, it requires us to be able to invest in certain parts of the organisation to deliver better outcomes. So we will lobby for that, but also we will, be cognizant of a changing financial climate to allow us to do more. The example I did is some of the transition around water safety and being a really kind of driving the kind of consideration for us. And that will be part of our lobbying strategy moving forward, irrespective of whether it's, whatever the denomination of government it is, and the conversations will still be the same around inequalities that exist in Merseyside and the ambition that we've got to protect people of Merseyside.
Councillor Lamb, you won't be able to say I'm new very much longer. You'll be an old hand. But this used to be nuts figures, the super output earners, which analysed down to wards, not wards, down to sub-wards, what do they call?
Lower super.
Like lower super output earners, yeah. And that was partly hypothecated why we got the European grant, Objective 1 grant, 1.6 billion, I think. It should have been 2 billion, but some went to Northern Ireland. It's made no difference. We're still at the bottom of the pile, Merseyside. And to some extent, the investment in the rest of the country has brought the rest of the country up, but we've not had that investment, perhaps. But irrespective of that, this is a message that I give to my colleague Secretary. Irrespective of that, here Merseyside Fire is an example of where, whilst we're the poorest, demonstratively poorest community in the country, we can provide the best public services if there's a will to do that, and with the support and cooperation of fantastic officers and staff. Like we had this morning, we had the staff engagement day with great staff who are committed and want to deliver a great service to keep the public of Merseyside safe. And you don't have that doesn't really matter how poor you are. You could, obviously, if we had more money, that would be better. But what we're doing, it demonstrates the best public services. And there is a case there for us all of us, at all levels of the public sector, to lobby for a better deal for Merseyside. Okay. So, any further questions on item 6? If not, can I draw your attention to the recommendations printed on page 179, approved that draft community risk management plan 24-27, and it's A, called the consultation prior to coming back here, final publication, and we'll have a discussion, an informal discussion amongst members about what is proposed and what the seeming outcome, the way that was done. Would that be agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And that's the end of the budget meeting. As I said, sometime in the midst of that, to congratulate Emily in advance. You won't be getting many sleep. You will get more sleepless nights. Much sleep in a few weeks' time.